Good morning from Brian
and Chris.
Society News for Friday 22nd of March 2019. Tuesday 26th of March. There will be a coffee morning held at the Cloisters in Bembridge. All are welcome from 10:15 a.m. till 11:30 a.m. The swimming group are swimming at the waterside pool in Ryde. The pool is closed to the public whilst the group swims. There are male and female volunteers to help you get in and out of the pool, as well as lifeguards to ensure your safety. To join the swimming group, please call the site for Wight first to notify us of your swimming ability. You need to register with the office at Millbrook House first to be able to swim with the group.
Wednesday the 27th of March. The weekly coffee morning will be held at Millbrook House this week from 10:30 a.m. There will also be our low vision drop-in between 10 and 12 noon, a weekly event to allow you to view and try the low vision equipment we have at the Society without the need for an appointment.
Thursday 28th of March. The Thursday social group are meeting at Millbrook House. The group meets from 10:30 a.m. till 2 p.m. You can knit or just have a chat. Then later in the afternoon, volunteers come in and read to the group from different topics.
Any other news? The Wednesday social group sadly came to an end this week, but we celebrated with tea, coffee and cake to the delightful and talented tones of Hannah Piera, who very kindly gave up an hour of her valuable time to sing for us. You can hear 15 minutes of Hannah's superb voice and song choices later in the programme. The Freshwater Audio Book Group will not be taking place on Tuesday the 26th of March. The group will next be meeting on Tuesday the 30th of April. The Fellowship for the Visually Impaired will meet on Saturday the 30th of March at Bethany Evangelical Church, Union Street, Newport at 3 p.m. The speaker this month will be Jeff Russell, and his wife Joy will be singing solos. There will be hymns, a quiz, story reading and a short Christian message. Hymn books and scripture are in large print and braille. A collection is taken from which donations are made to Torch Trust for the Blind. For further details, please contact Mrs. Jackie Moore on 520797. We invite visually impaired members to help test our updated website. Site for Wight is in the process of updating our website to make it more accessible and user-friendly for visually impaired users and more aesthetically pleasing to sighted viewers. Some visually impaired members have already undertaken some testing on our behalf with a couple of text-to-speech software packages. But we would be delighted to receive feedback from as many visually impaired members as possible, as there are many different software packages available. We are keen to identify and correct any glitches or difficulties experienced before we go live with the updated website. You can access the website by typing http://siteforwight2.wightcomputers.com/. Please provide your feedback to our marketing, communications and fundraising manager on admin@iwsb.org.uk during the coming week so that we can relaunch the new website by the end of the month.
Upcoming activities. We will be attending the Independent Arts Sing-About session at St Mark's Church Hall, Wootton, on the first Wednesday of the month, beginning on Wednesday the 3rd of April. The session runs from 2 p.m. till 4 p.m. It is free to attend and refreshments are provided. However, voluntary donations to independent arts are appreciated. Minibus transport may be available depending on location and costs £2. We will be swimming at the special care session held at Wight Sports Centre in Freshwater on the third Wednesday of each month, beginning on Wednesday the 17th of April. The session runs from 12 noon till 1 p.m. The cost to swim is £4.20. Minibus transport may be available depending on location and costs £2. If you're interested in joining the group, then we will need to ask some questions about your swimming ability, general health, mobility and next of kin details. Numbers are restricted for this session, so please register your interest early. There is one space left on the pottery session on Monday the 29th of April. This 2-hour session will involve the use of the potter's wheel and cost £25. The price covers everything required, including clay, materials and the use of the kiln fire. The session takes place at Jubilee Stores on Newport Quay. Unfortunately, there is no minibus available for this activity. We will be visiting the Donkey Sanctuary in Wroxall on Friday the 3rd of May. This is a social outing to meet the animals and enjoy refreshments in the coffee shop. There is no charge for the activity. Minibus transport may be available depending on location and costs £2. The closing date for registering your interest is Friday the 12th of April. The audiobook group meets on the second Wednesday of each month at Lord Louis Library in Newport. We meet from 2 p.m. for about an hour. We discuss the last month's book over a cup of tea or coffee before handing out the book for the next month. Books are available on CD or USB stick. There is no charge for this group for visually impaired people. There is no transport available for this group. However, sighted guide assistance is available between the library and the bus station if requested in advance. For more information or to register your interest for any of these activities, please call Sight for Wight on 522205 or email members@iwsb.org.uk.
This week's In Touch. Trial of driverless vehicles. Driverless vehicles are being tested at the moment, but at the Blind Veterans UK Centre in Ovingdean, Brighton, a 6-month trial for the use of visually impaired people has gone underway. Reporter Lucy Edwards went to find out what some of the blind veterans think of them. Roy Simons is turning 100 on Friday. His secret to a long life: keep organised, keep your independence and have a tot of something strong each day. Peter Wight visits him in his home in Harrow to toast him on his birthday. The presenter is Lee Kumutat and the reporter is Peter Wight.
Isle of Wight County Press, Friday 22nd of March 2019. Is this the island's worst driver? Menace on our roads. A shocking video shows the moment a driver nearly caused a serious head-on collision while trying to overtake on an Isle of Wight road. The dashboard camera video, which has been viewed more than 700,000 times since it was posted online on Tuesday, has caused outrage among viewers. Police are investigating the incident after receiving multiple reports of dangerous driving on the A3054 at Core Hill. The video was taken by Jarve Stevenson on his way home from work. The footage shows the driver of a red Mazda repeatedly attempting to overtake a van, causing oncoming vehicles to swerve to the side of the road to avoid a head-on collision. Isle of Wight driving instructor Les Means has spoken out about the state of driving on the island following the exposure this video received. He said, "I see that kind of thing every single day. People overtaking at the most stupid places. As instructors, my colleagues and I have to use our dual controls all the time because we are put in the position that van was in. We have to put our foot on the brake, grab the steering wheel, or take some kind of action because other drivers are acting aggressively. It is socially unacceptable to drive under the influence of alcohol. It is socially unacceptable to be driving on your phone, while driving, but for some reason it is acceptable to break the speed limit. Soon someone will have a bad crash. People will slow down for a few months after, and then they will go back to speeding. Speeding seems to be acceptable to a lot of people. Drivers are always telling me the same thing. If they drive within the speed limit, they are abused by other drivers who tailgate and overtake them dangerously. If you're driving 30 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, people are on your back. It is happening all over the Isle of Wight. Driving like this might save you 5 minutes off your journey, but is it really worth the risk of killing yourself or other people over 5 minutes? Watch the video at www.countypress.co.uk.
Isle of Wight Cancer Centre Fund hits £100,000. It's done. Wessex Cancer Trust has reached its £100,000 target. In March last year, the Trust launched its Build for the Future appeal to raise the funds for a new cancer wellbeing centre on the island. The centre needed a new home following the redevelopment of its leased building in Lugley Street, Newport, and the new centre, which will be created in an adjoining building, required extensive renovation. From skydives to cake sales, inflatable colour runs to cyclothons, the Trust has reached its target almost a year since the launch. Lorraine Wight, Community Engagement Officer, said, "The best thing about the fundraise is that it has been such a community effort. Every single corner of the Isle of Wight has come together to make this happen, and the new centre will benefit all islanders." Lorraine said she wanted to thank all the staff and volunteers at the Trust who had put in hours and hours of their own time to help or run their own fundraising events. "Any continued fundraising will make the centre better than we envisaged," said Lorraine. "We can expand what we do and it will let us increase the services." Key moments in the Trust's calendar have included the arrival of the new Daisy bus, the inflatable colour run, and the New Year's Day swim. Lorraine said the inflatable colour run really was phenomenal. A group of 1,000 people turned up and it was the first of its kind on the island. It raised £40,000 in one hit, so was a massive chunk of what we had to raise. The final amount of money was raised during a cyclothon at Isle of Wight Radio. Well-known island names from Level 42's Mark King and Isle of Wight Council leader Councillor Dave Stewart to gold medal Olympian Shirley Robertson got on their bikes and cycled for the Trust. Lorraine said, "It was such a good day. It was a little bit unexpected to hit our target so suddenly, but it feels really great as well." Unfortunately, everyone has an encounter with cancer at some point in their life, and this centre will help improve the lives of hundreds of islanders.
MP's petition over 10,000 homes target. MP Bob Seeley has launched a petition calling for the island's housing target to be lowered. The island plan, drawn up by the Isle of Wight Council, includes proposals to build 10,000 homes on the island over the next 15 years. One Ryde councillor branded the idea utter madness, while the Campaign for the Protection of Rural England, CPRE, warned it would create an urban sprawl and ruin the countryside. A consultation on the island plan closed last month. Mr. Seeley has now launched a petition calling for the government-imposed housing target to be lowered. He has also asked island residents to complete a survey on local housing need. He said, "This housing is not being built for islanders and will be unaffordable for most islanders. We do not have the infrastructure to cope. Large-scale house building will damage our landscape, quality of life, and the island's tourism and visitor economy. There is no public support among islanders for large-scale house building. By accepting targets we cannot fulfil, the council leaves itself vulnerable to developers to force greenfield development." Mr. Seeley said the target should be more than halved, from 641 homes a year to around 300. He also objected to plans for new villages comprising an additional 1,700 homes that could be built in Wellow or Godshill. If enough people signed the petition, he said it would enable him, in partnership with the Isle of Wight Council, to convince the government the island was a special case. "We will be in a stronger position to make a case for exceptional circumstances, to lower the housing target and, critically, ensure the housing we do build is built for islanders," he said. You can sign the petition at islandvision.uk/island plan. Alex Haig Thomas, chair of the island branch of CPRE, said, "We are a tourist island and people won't come here to see more tarmac and more developments like those that are exactly the same all over the country. Once these greenfield sites have been built on, they are gone for good."
Mystery over dead deer at Compton. Mystery surrounds the sighting of a dead deer on Compton Beach. Dog walkers made the discovery last Wednesday. How the large mammal ended up on the beach is unclear. Cattle have been known to fall from the cliffs above in the past. Deer are known to swim in the sea, meaning it could have washed up on the beach from elsewhere. Robert Lang, National Trust Countryside Manager, said, "I think it looks like a roe deer. It is most likely it has come from Dorset, where it must have died and got washed across in the sea." The council said that dead wild animals on beaches are the landowner's responsibility. The beach at Compton is the property of the Crown Estate, but there is no representative on the island. There is no vehicle access onto the beach at Compton, so retrieval would not be straightforward.
Damien featured in art exhibition. The image of missing Isle of Wight teenager Damien Nettles has featured in a London art exhibition. The Unmissable exhibition featured portraits of the missing by renowned artists at the Old Truman Brewery on Brick Lane. Damien was painted by Nicholas Todd Hunter. Valerie Greenhell Nettles, Damien's mother, travelled more than 4,000 miles from her home in the USA to see the portrait. She told the county press, "I wasn't sure about doing this project initially. I wasn't sure how it might turn out. So it was a bit of a gamble. However, I felt it would be good publicity for Damien. I also retired at the end of December and felt this was an opportunity for me to attend an event like this for once where Damien is featured. I had seen Damien's portrait prior to the exhibition in pictures, but seeing his face up on the wall among the other missing people was very emotional and sad. It was sad, but it was also a very positive experience. The families came together having suffered this same loss, yet with resilience, sharing a common bond of missing family member. Damien's portrait captures his exuberance and zest for life, and his happy smile full of hope for his future, which sadly was cut short for reasons we're still waiting to know. I was also very pleased to meet the artist, Nicholas Todd Hunter. The exhibition, which has now ended, was held to mark 25 years of the charity Missing People. An auction of the works and the chance to buy limited edition prints will run until March the 28th. Valerie has written a book about her loss and her son, The Boy Who Disappeared. It will be released in September and more details can be seen on Amazon. It can be ordered in advance for delivery on the day of release.
Have your say on harbour. The tide is turning at Newport Harbour as the Isle of Wight Council sets out ideas for its future. Following public consultations in 2017 and 2018, plans are being created to transform this key part of the historic town into a lively, well-designed and sustainable mixed-use location. Options up for discussion include creating jobs and employment opportunities, temporary and permanent activities to increase visitor numbers by land and boat, a harbour loop with a possible pedestrian and cycle bridge, and well-designed new homes. The plans will depend on feedback given by Newport residents and businesses. The Assistant Director of Regeneration, Rhaenyra O'Donnell, said, "A master plan is a way to paint a picture of how the land will be used for the future. It's not a final blueprint for every detail, but the plan will show what's possible and what isn't. So, for example, we hope to identify types of development, potential new businesses, types of housing, how paths will be laid out, the approach to pedestrian and vehicle movement, green space, access to the water, the historic environment, the whole way we envisage the future layout of Newport Harbour." And, following on from the awesome designs at last year's Young Designers Awards, maybe even a new bridge across the estuary. With the help of Newport residents and our Shaping Newport partners, the master plan will create a story around our hopes and wishes for the harbour, so we can get the right people to come and invest in making it come to life. There will be consultation events coming up in April and May.
New magistrates sworn in for the Isle of Wight. New magistrates have been sworn in for the Isle of Wight. A ceremony was held at the Isle of Wight Crown Court in the presence of Judge Melville QC, Isle of Wight High Sheriff Goya Minghella Giddens, Chair of the Isle of Wight Magistrates Bench Gillian Dale, Vice Lieutenant of the Isle of Wight Sir Guy Ackland, and Deputy Justice's Clerk Jill Redstone. The new magistrates are Kay Marriott, Jacqueline Gazzard and Jacqueline Mead. Kay started a career in nursing more than 40 years ago and has worked on the island in local hospitals and GP practices. Her nursing career has involved many aspects of nursing, youth work and health promotion within the island community, and she is currently a clinical service manager at St Mary's Hospital. Her spare time is devoted to voluntary work. Jacqueline Gazzard was born and brought up on the island and studied history at Cambridge before working for several charitable organisations, including Historic Royal Palaces, where she was head of communications. Since returning to the island, she has worked with several non-profit organisations here and abroad, advising on brand communication and commercial strategy. She is also a part-time forest school leader and volunteer with wildlife projects. Jacqueline Mead lives in Bembridge with her husband Gary. She has worked in public health. Moira Dawson was also sworn in for West Hampshire. Magistrate Gordon Cooper was given a Long Service Award for 20 years' service.
Horses improved mental health. Surrounding herself with horses has remarkably improved the mental health of an Isle of Wight woman, and she hopes her story will help others. Melissa Pinfield Wells spent years in and out of psychiatric wards, could not hold down a job and tried to take her own life. Now, at 26, she has had 3 years of feeling more settled since letting the equestrian world envelop her. She set up her own business, Melissa's Equine Service, where she teaches riding, schools horses, and backs and breaks in young horses. It is a lifestyle choice as well as a job, and it suits her down to the ground, but it took her a while to reach this point. Melissa was born on the island and went to 9 Acres Primary, then Node Hill Middle School, but left due to being bullied. She went to Priory School but dropped out at 14. She took a Level 3 BTEC at the Isle of Wight College, but her attempts to work and study after that failed. Even when she thought she was doing what she wanted, her mental health problems took over and left her unable to cope. Being on the autistic spectrum, she found it difficult to work in busy environments or with other people. Eventually, her confidence was given a boost when she started helping out at Robert Booth's yard, and she found that whenever she was with horses, she felt able to cope and able to communicate with others. She set up her own equine business at Blacklands Lane, Newport, and has been thriving ever since. She said, "Since working full-time with horses, it has been the first time in my adult life I have not had a period of time in 7 Acres. I have not been admitted for 3 years. I do not get quite so stressed because I have the horses. When things get tough, I feel I can still cope if I focus on the horses. I don't have much human interaction, but when I do, I have a horse with me and I can cope. I can communicate better with horses. They are simpler to understand compared to people." She is particularly close to her horse Bernard, who gives her a reason to keep going. She has to look after him through thick and thin because he is a difficult character and few others can handle him. Melissa is currently training in animal physiotherapy and should qualify soon. She said, "I want other people to see that just because someone wrote you off, it doesn't mean it's true. Find something you are passionate about and use it to your advantage."
Scheme praised by Isle of Wight apprentices. The diverse roles of apprentices were celebrated during National Apprenticeship Week. Island Futures held an event at Lord Louis Library to showcase the different schemes on offer on the island. Ride Academy currently has 3 apprentices: Jay Henley, Admin and Marketing, Anya Hill, Business Apprentice, and Leah Mead, Teaching Assistant. Principal Joy Ballard said, "We are lucky with the calibre of the applicants we receive and are incredibly proud of the progress they make." Apprenticeships are such an important route into the world of work, as they give young people the chance to learn valuable skills while gaining work experience. As an employer, we get enthusiastic and talented individuals who contribute to the organisation in such a positive way. 2 of our current apprentices are also former students, so are good role models for current students thinking about options after GCSEs. Jay won the Rising Star Award at AET's annual Apprenticeship Awards. He said, "My role involves a wide range of tasks, including working on reception, working with subject departments, careers, and also creating the weekly parent newsletter and helping to manage the Academy's social media. Working in a school, I have come to love seeing how the students learn and progress. I was surprised how much of this aspect of the job I enjoy, and have even started running a chess club." Anya said, "No 2 days are the same in my role, which helps me develop a wider range of skills. As part of my role, I deal with student attendance, plan events such as the Year 11 Careers Fair, and also work on the pastoral side. I recently left the sixth form and feel I can help guide current students as I have just been through the same experience." Leah added, "There were many reasons why the apprenticeship route was appealing to me. It would allow me to work, gain experience, and become qualified in my chosen field while working. I wouldn't have done it any other way, and I hope others will choose apprenticeships as it is a great way into your chosen career."
New books thanks to Morrison's. Pupils from St George's Primary School celebrated World Book Day with a bundle of new books. The Arraton-based school received the new novels for their school library thanks to local supermarket Morrison's. The books were gifted in partnership between the Morrison's Foundation and the National Literacy Trust. Carrie Finneran, community champion at the Lakes store, said, "I'm delighted to be donating these new books to a local school. There's a great selection and I hope every pupil will be able to find a story they will enjoy. The national project will see every Morrison's store donate a bundle of books to a local school."
I never planned to sail so far. A West Wight man has single-handedly circumnavigated the world following a 3-year voyage of discovery. Tom Darcy, 35, who grew up in Chillerton and whose family moved to Bryston in 2005, set sail from Yarmouth in Fathom, his Vancouver 28, on May the 9th, 2016. Originally his aim was an Atlantic circuit, but the lure of the South Pacific proved too strong. Tom attended Carisbrooke High School and worked for 8 years as a shipbroker in London before escaping the rat race. He said, "On my passage to St. Helena from Cape Town, with 28,700 nautical miles having passed under the keel, I crossed the same meridian of longitude again, and so completed a solo circumnavigation of the world. I never planned to sail so far, but once I headed to the South Pacific, there was no turning back." Tom learned to sail at Yarmouth Sailing Club, age 8, and raced oppies and scows before moving up to Yarmouth 1 Design and X1 Design at the Royal Solent Yacht Club. He said, after leaving the UK in 2016, the first year of the voyage included stops in Spain, Portugal, Madeira, the Canaries and the Cape Verde Islands before an Atlantic crossing to Barbados. Then 2017 began with visits to St. Lucia, the Grenadines and Grenada, before heading west to Colombia, the San Blas Islands and through the Panama Canal. The rest of the year was spent cruising across the Pacific Ocean via French Polynesia, the Cook Islands, Tonga, Fiji and New Caledonia. Cyclone season was spent in Australia before a crossing of the Indian Ocean to Madagascar in 2018 via Cocos Keeling. By Christmas, I had reached South Africa after a trip down the Mozambique Channel via Bazaruto in Mozambique. Two highlights that come to mind are the powerful and unique feeling of solitude I experienced during 38 days alone at sea from Panama to the Marquesas, and the thrill of those encounters with sea life. I swam alongside humpback whales in Tonga, manta rays in Fiji and whale sharks in Madagascar. More than anything, though, it's the people I've met and friends I've made along the way that have made it all the more special. Now is the time to think about returning home. Follow Tom's ongoing voyage at www.yachtfathom.co.uk.
Seahorse on the beach. A dead seahorse spotted on the beach at Chiltern Chine by Isle of Wight resident Tracy Curtis has led to a call for islanders to report sightings to the Seahorse Trust. The 3-centimetre long seahorse was identified by the Seahorse Trust as a sub-adult, short-snouted seahorse, also known as Hippocampus hippocampus. The Seahorse Trust is a charity that collects information about seahorses spotted in the UK and around the world to gather data that helps conserve and protect the creatures.
Mermaid Gin's stunning new look. A stunning new sculpted bottle for the Isle of Wight's popular Mermaid Gin has been unveiled. The Isle of Wight distillery revealed the new bottle, which is now available to purchase, after a year-long redesign project headed up by distillery founders Xavier Baker and Conrad Gauntlet. The pair aim to create an environmentally friendly bottle using 100% plastic-free materials. The new bottle is created exclusively from sustainable, recyclable materials. The bottle was designed to be repurposed with brilliant colours and a striking shape. In addition, the distillery will soon be piloting a refill scheme enabling island customers to have bottles refilled on site. Mr. Gauntlet, co-director and owner of the Mermaid Bar and the Wishing Well, said, "The warm response we have had to our spirits, especially Mermaid Jim, has been really overwhelming, and we hope our customers will welcome this development. Co-director Mr. Baker added, "We worked hard to create a new bespoke mermaid bottle, trying to capture the essence of our beautiful island by representing the sea mermaids and our marine environment, with sustainability a key focus." This is a very exciting time for us at Mermaid Gin, as Mermaid Gin gains recognition on the mainland and overseas. The small batch gin is handcrafted, distilled and bottled at the distillery using 10 ethically sourced botanicals, including rock samphire foraged from island cliffs, Boadicea hops from Ventnor Botanic Garden, and locally grown elderflower.
Seals in the sea at Newtown. Beautiful seals were captured on camera by County Press freelance photographer Sienna Anderson. Sienna spotted the animals splashing around at Newtown Creek on Monday.
£2.1 million holiday park investment. Holiday park operator Parkdean Resorts has set out investment plans of £2.1 million across its Isle of Wight parks for the 2019 holiday season. With a primary focus on new accommodation, more than £1.2 million will bring a mix of 49 new lodges and caravans to its 4 island resorts, Nodes Point in St Helens, Lower Hyde and Langard in Shanklin, and Thornhurst Bay near Cowes. The work comes as part of a wider investment of £40.7 million across the company this year, to include new caravans, refurbishments and new luxury lodges. Lower Hyde is one part that will see new one-bedroom caravans specifically designed for couples and including pet-friendly accommodation, a customer profile that Parkdean Resorts is keen to develop. Chief Executive John Waterworth said, "We have lots of people that come along in twos on holiday, so we'll be introducing one-bedroom caravans for the first time with young couples, empty nesters and retired people in mind. It is with pride we announce further significant investment across our parks this year ahead of the 2019 season. Work is already underway to bring in these changes to accommodation, retail, entertainment and many other elements that make up the Parkdean Resorts experience, which we continue to build upon while listening to customer feedback and reacting to market demand."
Isle of Wight Lord Lieutenant presents awards to Cowes Sea Cadets. Just days before the Isle of Wight Lord Lieutenant retired on his 75th birthday, Cowes Sea Cadets were privileged to have him visit their unit. Major General Sir Martin Wight made presentations to the group before his official retirement yesterday. Cowes Sea Cadets offers a wide range of activities including sailing, kayaking, surf kayaking, orienteering, shooting, power boating, canoeing, drill and qualifications, including BTECs. Presentations on the evening went to Darcy Muntzer for 6 years service. Darcy is a surf kayak coach and part of the Surf Kayak England squad. Also awarded were Therese Young for 6 years service, Holly Moody for Officer in Charge Cadet of the Year, Alicia Davison for her promotion to Cadet First Class, Leah Hamilton got the Pete Kilshaw Award for Endeavour, and Caden Tomlinson, who is now a senior, was awarded Junior Cadet of the Year. Some new official positions were announced, including new President Peter Grimaldi and the Reverend Andrew Pope as Padre.
And it's goodbye this week from Brian.
And also from Chris.
Hello, I'm Paul.
Oh, hi. This is Weekender and I'm Sarah. First letter. Oh, well, this time the name and address supplied has been withheld. And it's thanks to a young lady. Thank you to the lovely young lady collecting for Marie Curie on the exit door at Tesco's on Saturday, March the 9th. I wish to thank you for giving me your time, care and consideration while leaving the store when I was having a bit of a medical issue. I did get home safely and I'm not quite fully fit, but hope to be soon. So thank you again. It's nice how you care for older people.
As a kind member of ferry staff from Jane Bowskill at Binstead, I was awkwardly parked on the 3 p.m. Cowes to Southampton ferry recently, and with a hospital appointment to get to, I asked for assistance from one of the deck crew who could have not been kinder, arranging for me to reverse out and leave promptly, instead of potentially being last off. It was so kind of him I just made it to the hospital due to road closures and diversions, and missing signs which confused the sat-nav. But can staff please identify and thank him? I think by the time I returned on the 7:30 ferry, he was off duty.
This is a letter from Richard Steele, Chair of the Labour Party West and Central Wight branch. Last Thursday, I attended a demonstration at the West Wight Sports and Community Centre. The demonstration was to protest against the proposed closure of All Saints School in Freshwater. The protest was well organised, peaceful and vociferous, organised by the parents and pupils. The irony was the location. The Isle of Wight Council was holding a meeting here, a facility it ceased to fund and thus threatened its continued existence. So now it wants to close a freshwater school and has produced a document called a Delegated Decision Report. The Council's reasoning is deeply flawed and, for example, takes no account of the island plan to build 400 or so homes in freshwater, all for childless couples presumably. The school, which has had a long and illustrious past, currently has its difficulties. But surely the answer is to fix them before taking the nuclear option. In the short term, it may save us some money, but it'll make the lives of freshwater parents and children much more difficult. What freshwater will need, if the island plan is not fantasy, is a new central non-denominational school.
This is a letter from Mark Burrows in Ventnor, Saving Planet. Much as we must admire the youngsters' enthusiasm at protesting about climate change and bunking off school, always a good excuse for neglecting their lessons, I wonder if they would be so keen to save the planet when told to switch off their electronic devices, because they are the worst offenders. While using the internet to glean information or game playing, it takes enough energy to boil a kettle.
Here is a letter from Jonathan Bluestone of Cowes. I read the letter in the county press entitled Genital Crimes of the 15th of March and am going to call it for what it is, racist. Round Up the Rabbis calls up a singular group based on their religious ethnicity, while male circumcision is performed in many Middle Eastern and African cultures legally, here in the UK and in many other countries. The letter also demonstrates ignorance, since in Judaism the circumcision is performed by a mohel who sometimes is a rabbi but can also be a GP or surgeon or lay. All mohels in the UK are trained in registers. FGM Absolutely. Let's stop that today. How on earth did Round Up the Rabbis get through your editorial proofreading? You need to issue an apology now for the offence caused. And there is an editor's footnote. We would like to unreservedly apologise for any offence caused by the publication of the letter last week. The views expressed were those of the letter writer and not the paper, but the language used should have been edited to eliminate any racist or anti-Semitic connotations.
Here's a letter now without the person's name on. Common myths and scams. There are many assumptions and myths surrounding scammers. Here are the few of the more common ones. Fraudsters want to get off the phone quickly in case they get caught. This is not the case. They will actually want to keep you on the phone for as long as possible, so that if a bank has been alerted to any unusual activity, they are unable to contact you as you are already on the phone. They will also want to keep you talking to find out as much as they can about you. They usually call from overseas. Don't assume that a caller with an English accent will be genuine or one with a foreign accent will be a scammer. Banks will always refund stolen money. If you have transferred money to a bank account, the bank is currently under no obligation to refund you the money. However, changes are currently being made by the banks to offer additional protection to customers and will be in place later this year. To stay safe, always remember, never give out bank or personal details over the telephone. Never feel pressured to make a decision over the telephone. Consider a call blocking device or telephone, or check if your call provider can do this free of charge. Reporting a scam. One, for advice on scams, call Citizens Advice Consumer Helpline on 035 40 450 506. To report a scam call, Action Fraud on 0300 123 2040.
Here is a letter from Ian Mackay of Totland Bay. Headline is, "This is not Brexit." Along with 411 of his parliamentary colleagues, Ireland MP Bob Seeley voted in favour of Theresa May's motion to extend the Article 50 period. The European Union has made it abundantly clear there are no more concessions for the UK to win, and with no deal off the table would be forced to deal with the Prime Minister's deal, with senior Whitehall insiders saying that means we effectively remain a member. It has been further revealed we'll still have to pay into the European Union budget. The island voted with clarity the UK should exit the EU, and we would have a right for our MP to reflect this in Parliament. To be clear, extending Article 50 is not Brexit means Brexit, nor is Theresa May's deal, which will ultimately be shoved down our throats. Bob Seeley has made much of his Brexit credentials, and I have long questioned his sincerity. His latest vote is further evidence. At least we should be pretty sure his predecessor would have voted differently.
It's not all bad. A letter from Mrs. Goodall, Newport. Sadly, we hear so much negativity about education today. However, there are so many young islanders who have highly successful careers with international recognition, professors, doctors, writers, educators, entertainers, servicemen, artists, musicians, journalists, science, environmentalists, conservationists and other fine careers. Some of the young people regularly meet in London to keep in touch. As a retired teacher, it gives me great pleasure to regularly see young people who have chosen to continue their careers and raise their families on the island. Also, as a one-time employer, I wonder if those troublemakers and time wasters realise how their behaviour affects the employment opportunities. Thank goodness there are so many other young people who are continuing to work towards fine careers.
Headline, wake up and smell the coffee. So perhaps this is a lighter topic. This is from Mrs. Knight of Freshwater. We see the hospital as in crisis. So why so many houses are going to be built? They can't cope now. And the doctor's surgeries, you can't see a doctor. Schools can't cope with cuts. Roads still in poor repair. Come on, you lot, wake up and smell the coffee and do something about it. We should not be paying more money to the architect who's got to fix where they've gone wrong. I would love to show them the roads in my neck of the woods. And I think many people would feel the same. Highfield Road, Freshwater, Silcombe Lane, outside number 4, there is a dip in the road that's been there for many years.
This is the final letter. Dismay at destruction from John Sutcliffe Lake. Many local people share the dismay at the destruction of the landscape behind KFC in Lake, expressed by George Davis, whose letter last week was unfortunately curtailed by print gremlins. When I saw the hedgerows and mature trees being pulled down, and I mean pulled down, in early February, I contacted Lake Parish Council and was told the matter had been mentioned at that month's council meeting, but nobody knew what was going on. Sadly, nobody took the trouble to find out. I also contacted the Isle of Wight Council, who appeared not to know of the work, and eventually was told an official would visit the site. Now all that remains are 3 trees. One appears to have died. The second has had its major branches torn off, but is surrounded by barriers, presumably a token gesture of preservation, and the third is intact. Had the parish council acted quickly, it could perhaps save some of the trees, if not the hedgerows and the undergrowth, which, as Mr. Davis wrote, were an amazing habitat for wildlife, including birds, badgers and butterflies, and a joy to walk beside in summer, but have now been lost forever. We have not learned who was responsible for the destruction of this area, or it should have been carried out without council approval. We assume the land is being cleared for yet more development, and when this is approved by the council, as it inevitably will, whatever the wishes of local people, KFC is an example, we can only hope the condition of any development will be a requirement to plant more trees of specified species to replace the ones so sadly destroyed. But probably not. Planners, councillors and the protection of our environment and wildlife do not seem to go hand in hand. Equally sadly, our faith in councils and planners, already at an all-time low, has now dropped off the scale.
Over to looking back. We're going back 100 years. This is March the 22nd, obviously 1990. There was concern over the amount of recent mishaps in running the floating bridge. Oh dear, nothing changes. There was an appeal for information from the Ferry Committee, as there had never been known so many mishaps as during the past fortnight. The bridge had been aground or other incidents 4 times in a fortnight. It was described as quite extraordinary. And also 100 years ago, 2 labourers appeared in front of the Isle of Wight County Bench for behaving in a disorderly manner in Shanklin, arm in Regent Street, singing and acting drunk. They caused several people to get off the pathway into the road. They were given fair warning that if such conduct were not stopped, they would run the risk of being severely dealt with.
We move on now to 75 years ago, March 18th, 1944. Ryde Town Council organised a meeting for those interested in the rehabilitation of the island seaside resorts after the war. There was a suggestion that empty properties left vacant due to evacuation could be granted relief under the War Damage Act. All defence works, roadblocks and other impedimenta erected for the defence of the country should be removed with convenient speed. And also, at recent investitures at Buckingham Palace, 2 West Wight men who had been serving on submarines throughout the war received decorations from the King. They were Chief Petty Officers Benjamin Morton and Gerald D. Walls.
50 years ago, the Wootton Protection Action Group was formed to protest against a proposed Saturday hovercraft service between Southsea and Warner's Woodside Bay holiday camp. The main objections to the service, which would be operated by Hover Travel Limited, were noise, the danger to children, and public access to the beach. Also 50 years ago, a new ferry was announced for the Lymington-Yarmouth route. The present 2 ships took 36 cars and a maximum of 168 passengers each, but the new one would carry 50 cars and 500 passengers, mainly to accommodate coach traffic.
We move on to 25 years ago, March the 25th, 1994. The Isle of Wight Donkey Sanctuary moved to a new site, Lower Winston Farm in Wroxall. One of the island's most popular tourist attractions, the venture was opened at Bettyhaunt Lane, Newport, 5 years previously by Charlie and Cheryl Clark, but outgrew its premises and had 93 donkeys at the time of the move. The new site is 6 times the size. And also the same year, Patsy's nightclub in Ryde was given 3 months to improve its image or face closure from Medina Borough Council, after members received a dossier detailing nearly 30 police complaints against the club. The venue was given a 3-month licence, but the council insisted on the club installing video cameras. Inside, club owner Nick Spiker said he may appeal.
10 years ago, stars of stage, screen flocked to the island for the first Minghella movie marathon in memory of Anthony Minghella. Jude Law, Alan Rickman, Kevin Whartley, Martin Freeman and director Lord Putnam were among those attending. Also 10 years ago, plans to turn Northwood House into a hotel or restaurant were given a tentative thumbs up by Cowes residents, but not at the cost of losing the public car park. Cowes Mayor, Councillor Jeff Banks, said the town council would discuss the possibility of holding a referendum, asking people if they would be prepared to pay a higher precept to help save the house, but said it was unlikely to be popular with residents.
We'll now move on to Wight memories. Rocket inventor saved lives. More than 200 years ago, when ships had to rely on nothing more than the wind and the tides to steer a passage across the ocean, the back of the Isle of Wight was a graveyard for many of them. Any rescue attempt was not helped by the steep cliffs and rocky shores, so a way had to be found of making contact with those marooned on board. There were several men who tried to find a solution, the first being a Cornishman by the name of Henry Trengrouse, who invented a rocket that could be fired with a rope attached across the stricken ship and made fast by those on board. A link to the shore was made and a rescue attempted. A local man, John Dennett, came up with a variation of this method, his rocket giving more accuracy and was much lighter to carry and set up. John lived variously in Castle Road, Clatterfield Road, and at the time of his death in 1852 in Carisbrooke Castle, where he was the custodian, a reward given him by Queen Victoria for his splendid invention that was later adopted and used across the world. In those early days, John Dennett had a workshop in Gunville and had to compete with another invention by a man called Manby, who had received government sponsorship for a similar idea, using a mortar shell instead of a rocket to carry the rope. The disadvantages of his equipment was the extreme weight compared to Dennett's rocket, its accuracy and its ability to snap the rope when it was fired. For many years there were differing opinions as to who provided the most accurate and cost-effective solution, and Dennett even went so far as to give us demonstration to the royal family at Ventnor in 1833 in the garden of Lord Yarborough's cottage in the Undercliff. Indeed, on another occasion in 1840, a demonstration was set up in a field at Brook, attended by all the local great and the good, to compare the relative merits of each type of equipment and on all fronts. That included ease of setting up, distance achieved, accuracy and weight. Dennett's rocket won on every point. The rocket equipment took just 2 men to set it up compared to 7 required by the mortar, which was 5 times heavier than the rocket. Even when it came to a real-life situation at the back of the Wight, Manby's mortar failed to achieve its destination, whereas Dennett's rocket succeeded upon its first firing. In 1841, the commander of Coast Guards at Padstow wrote to John Dennett, "As far as this station is concerned, Manby is dead," meaning his equipment and not the man. He went on to say that in all the time they had previously been using Manby's mortar, not one life had been saved, and that he was happy to say the first time they had used Dennett's rockets, 6 lives had been saved. By 1853, 120 stations around the country had Dennett's rockets available to use when required. Locally, in 1843, a ship bound for the West Indies was seen on the rocks at Adderfield. One man was seen on deck, and dangerously he tied the rope that had been fired using the rocket equipment around his waist and indicated those ashore to pull him through the surf. He was brought to shore barely alive, but managed to tell those who saved him that there were other men on board. When the rescuers reached the ship, they found one man had a broken leg, another a shattered hand, and a third had been scalded by a kettle. A 4th man had nearly lost his eyes as a result of climbing a mast where the shredded sails had lashed his face like a whip. John Dennett, in my opinion, has never received the acclamation he deserved. Among famous names associated with the Isle of Wight, people will mention Alfred Lord Tennyson, Keats, Robert Hooke and Thomas Arnold, the headmaster of Rugby School. If I was asked to place them all in order of their contribution to public life, John Dennett would be top of the list. That's an article by Brian Greening and the Friends of Newport and Carisbrooke Cemeteries. And there's actually a photo here of Mr. Dennett's tomb in Carisbrooke Churchyard.
More Wight memories, and this time it's prison stories, and the headline is "Prison Guards Share Stories in New Book," and the article is by James Woolven. Former prison guards have shared their stories of working behind bars in Isle of Wight prisons. The ex-guards, who've worked closely with some of Britain's most infamous criminals, including the Cray twins, Charlie Bronson and the real-life Hannibal Lecter, have compiled their stories. Jam-packed with stories from behind bars, the book focuses mostly on the prisoners themselves. As author Gary Garabedian, who spent many years as a prison officer at Parkhurst, explains, in its heyday, when Parkhurst belonged to the Category A dispersal system, which included Albany, Long Lartin, Gartrey, Hull and Wakefield, Its brief was very simple and straightforward: to look after those prisoners that other prisons could not handle. Parkhurst literally became the dumping ground for the most troublesome, violent and mentally deranged prisoners in the system. It's true to say that other prisons looked after similar types of prisoners, but not the amount and wide range that Parkhurst was expected to take charge of and rehabilitate. Violence, both prisoner on prisoner and prisoner on staff, was run-of-the-mill. Hostage-taking, escapes and riots were also major problems. Using incident data, the author calculated that in year 2000, there were on average 7 members of staff assaulted every day. 9 prisoners assaulted a day, 1 civilian assaulted a day, 2 hostages taken every month, 2 fires a day, and 43 recorded drug offences every day. And 2000 was a good year, the author notes. The book shares untold stories from the officers who worked closely with some of Britain's most infamous criminals, including the Cray twins, the Richardson gang, the Great Train Robbers, members of the IRA, Peter Sutcliffe, the Yorkshire Ripper, Donald Neilson, the Black Panther, Ian Brady, the Moors murderer, Fauzi Noad, the only surviving terrorist from the siege of the Iranian embassy. Dennis Neilson, the murderer of 12 young men, and Charles Bronson, the man the media dubbed the most violent prisoner in captivity. Mr. Garabedian writes, if these prisoners were not problematic enough for the staff at Parkhurst, it was also decided to house prisoners who had been diagnosed mentally and criminally insane on a separate landing within the hospital wing. Again, this type of prisoner was many and varied, with 2 of them immediately springing to mind. Robert Maudsley, regarded as being the original Hannibal the Cannibal from Silence of the Lambs, and Graham Young, who poisoned 70 people, killing 4 of them. Mr. Garabedian added, the list of these most notorious criminals spending time behind the dark and forbidding walls of Parkhurst is long and shocking. Try to imagine what stresses and strains are placed on the staff who work day in, day out amongst prisoners who in many cases were unlikely to ever be released. In order to produce this shockingly honest accounts of life in the prison service, Mr. Garabedian enlisted the help of 7 colleagues from his 33 years in the prison service. All have contributed anecdotes and insights which have been compiled by Mr. Garabedian. These colleagues include John Harrell, Ken Pugh, John Cartwright, Eric Jones, Ian Lovers, Chris Devonshire and Fred Bray. The group of colleagues decided to put their stories down on paper after they'd got together for a reunion and began reminiscing about their days in the prison service and many characters that crossed their paths. It was decided that if they didn't record their memories, they would eventually be lost forever. They certainly have some good stories to tell, and the group are now looking for a publisher so they can share their stories with the public. The author of the book can be contacted through the county press.
We now move to My View, and this is an article by Alan Marriott. Will we still talk after the Battle of Brexit? Board of Brexit is a phrase that came into vocabulary a few months back during the calm before the storm we're all currently enduring, prior to what most likely will be the most expensive divorce in history. No one can afford to be fatigued by it anymore, and the magnitude of the decision is lost on few of us. The debate in pubs, restaurants and living rooms offers more heat than light, and a recent Guardian video film of irritating left-winger Owen Jones interviewing billionaire barfly Tim Martin, he of Wetherspoons fame, was closest to tipping me over the edge of exasperation over the two sides' mutual contempt for each other and their views. There was Jones with his pint of Stella prop, berating Martin for having no coherent argument against specific European Union policies, while hitting him with a stick of paying his staff £8 an hour. Martin, on the other hand, got rattled, and rather than debating the issue seriously and pointing out, as I would have done, that I'm sure some Labour and Remain supporting businesses probably pay their workers little more, he resorted to calling little Owen childish. What could have been an insightful interview with a man who is fascinating, populist, mould-breaking businessman turned into an orgy of name-calling and point-scoring. It was indicative of an atmosphere of mutual loathing of the other side, of intolerance of the opposite shade of opinion, and a sneering, vicious frame of mind that is difficult to stomach. Cards on the table as I am about to become ex-editor of the county press. Not going anywhere but handing over the reins to our current chief reporter, Emily Pearce. I can say that I am a Remainer and feel a damage to the UK economy and the future of my children. But more than that, I am of an age where I had a father who fought in the Second World War, and have always believed a united Europe is the best way to avoid bloodbaths in the future. Okay, it's far from perfect, and like any bureaucracy, is wasteful and at times patently unfair. I've always given each side a fair crack of the whip on the letters pages and shown no favour in editorial, but the views locally have been as polarised as they have nationally. Some of my friends and family want out, and I have to respect their thoughts on the matter. I have equally mates who are so pro-Remain I find myself taking the opposite viewpoint, particularly on issues such as the people's vote, and the strange notion that only young people should have a say as it is their future. Brexit is a gift that keeps on giving from the media. The drama of Parliament, the absurdity of some of the decisions, and the tenacity of St Theresa in hanging in there as our limbs are chopped off one by one, make it the news editor's dream. But please, folks, let's just have a little respect for the other end of the spectrum. If we understand where each other is coming from, then we might just find a place where we can all meet up. We would like to be able to talk to each other after this is all over.
Well, an article by Matthew Chatfield. Headline is Wellness Tea, a National Disgrace. There's a picture of somebody pouring a cup of tea, and the caption next to it is, what could be more British than the great cup of tea? Like it or not, we're all having to give some thought right now to the question of what makes us British. In case you think I exaggerate, the very existence of the United Kingdom is feasibly a casualty of the current political crisis we have made for ourselves. If that doesn't focus the mind on national identity, it's hard to think of something that might. Actually, hold on, I've thought of something. No, really, I have, and it's a whopper. Let me talk to you about tea. The very essence of British society, both in caricature and in reality, is the making and drinking of tea. As George Orwell wrote in 1946, tea is one of the mainstays of civilization in this country. But Orwell would be astounded and maybe horrified by the state of today's British tea drinking landscape. The good news is the amount and particularly the value of tea drunk is going up. But before you feel a surge of patriotic fervour rise, a 2018 report from National Tea Day reveals the landscape of the UK's favourite drink is a stir. Health-conscious young people are ditching a traditional breakfast brew in favour of what is euphemistically described as wellness teas, and they're apparently willing to pay about up to £5 a cup for this. Diaz Ayub, a man with the glorious job title of tea futurist, explained, "The report indicates the tea occasion has changed from that of indulgence and gluttony to one of sensuality and mindfulness." Now, I'm hardly one to gainsay such wisdom, but I really cannot equate a mug of solid builder's tea with either indulgence or gluttony. A cup of tea cannot be constrained into a product to be dispensed by sommeliers, curated by tea futurists, or cherished by mindfulness gurus. The ritual of the tea making, the offering of the cup, the searing heat of a fresh brew, the wisp of steam in the sunlight has much more to it. Think back to pivotal moments in your life. Maybe the receipt of momentous news, the birth of a child, the loss of a relative, or a rendezvous with a lover. Never far from you was the offer and receipt of a cup of tea. Real hot tea with milk and probably sugar if you wanted it. Somebody comforted you, reached out to you, or sought contact with you by the simple but universal act of sharing tea. This is a part of British life that permeates all classes and professions. Little wonder the British Army developed the boiling vessel for their tanks in recognition of the importance of a hot cup of freshly brewed tea for soldiers in action. I salute those who seek to sell wellness teas to millennials. But I trust the younger generation of tea drinkers will see past the hype and cherish the traditional British pot of tea for the positive symbol of national community that it is, just as their parents and grandparents do.
Right, we now move on to What's On. Singer Marty Pellow set for Shanklin. Marty Pellow, best known as the lead singer of Wet, 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 and for his leading roles in the West End, is coming to Shanklin Theatre. Now enjoying a successful career as both a solo artist and leading musical theatre star, Martin is playing at selected theatres for 2019 and comes to Shanklin on June the 24th. Tickets go on sale on Wednesday or on Tuesday for Friends of Shanklin Theatre. Marty's career includes one of the most successful hits in UK chart history, Love Is All Around, which spent 15 weeks at number 1.
Right, also about Shanklin Theatre, up-and-coming events, 25th of March at 7:30, Calabro. And then on Thursday, Mark Steele is back again on the Isle of Wight, Thursday the 28th of March at 8 p.m. And Elkie Brooks is here on Saturday the 30th of March at 7:30. The box office is 868,000, but other things happening are in April are The Wall of Floyd at 7:30, April the 6th, which is a Saturday. Monday the 8th of April, first act Monster Mashup, which starts at 6:30. Again, it's on again on the 9th, Tuesday the 9th, at the same time, 6:30. April the 12th, that's a Friday, Coldplay's tribute to Coldplay at 7:30. Saturday the 13th, Robert Wight, the Island Savoyards present, 7:30. Thursday the 18th, My Fair Lady, and that goes on until the 21st, 7:30 in the evening, but also on Saturday the 20th at 2:30, the matinee. Friday the 26th of April, 7:30, the very best of Burt Bacharach. And last in April, Saturday the 27th, Steve Harley Acoustic Trio, again at 7:30.
Carrying on in the same vein, there's some acts coming to Medina Theatre. Badness, obviously a Madness tribute band, Friday 29th of March at 7:30. Go Now, tribute act to Moody Blues, Saturday 30th of March at 7:30. Then Richard Jones, who won Britain's Got Talent in 2016, one of the world's greatest magicians. He's on the Friday the 5th of April at 7:30. Tribute to Rod Stewart, Some Guys Have All the Luck, Saturday the 6th of April at 7:30. And Roy Chubby Brown is Thursday the 11th of April. And then Charlie Lansborough, the Farewell Tour, the UK's premier country music singer, and that's on Sunday the 14th of April. The box office at Medina Theatre is 823880.
A reminder about Action on Hearing Loss. This is at Sandown Medical Centre between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. next Friday, March the 29th, for its monthly drop-in. Come along for advice, batteries, cleaning and retubing of NHS hearing aids. No appointment is necessary, but for more information please call 529 533.
And to carry on from that, they're also at God's Hill Methodist Church between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. next Thursday. All the other information the same.
There we are, that's all for today. Goodbye from Sarah.
And it's goodbye from Paul.
I'll find you in the morning sun. A nightingale sang in Berkeley Square. Sing as we go and let the world go by, singing a song we march along the highway, say goodbye to sorrow, there's always tomorrow, to think of the day. Sing as we go, although the skies are grey. You've got to sing again to a song and a smile, making life worthwhile. So sing as we go away. dreamed that God would be forgiving. Then I was young and unafraid. When dreams were made and used and wasted, there was no ransom to be paid. No southern song, no wine untasted. Oh, she's gonna shimmy, 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 shake, and all that jazz. Oh, she's gonna shimmy till her garters break, and all that jazz. Show where the Parker girl. Oh, her mother's couple curtain if she hears her baby's clear for all that jazz. I wanna be where the people are. I wanna see them dancing, strolling along down a, what's that word again? Feet. Flipping your feet, you don't get too far. The legs are required for jumping, dancing, strolling along down a, what's that word again? Street. Up where they walk, up where they run, up where they stay all day in the sun, wandering free. Wish I could be part of that world. And all as old as time, true as it can be. Barely even friends, then somebody friends unexpectedly. Just a little change, small to say the least, all a little scared, neither one prepared, Beauty and the Beast. Everybody loves a winner, so nobody loved me. Lady peaceful, lady happy, that's what I long to be. When all the odds are they're in my favor, something's bound to begin. It's gonna happen sometime. Maybe this time I'll win. 'Cause everybody, oh, they love a winner. So nobody loved me. Lady peaceful, lady happy, that's what I long to be. When all the odds are they're in my favor, something's bound to begin. It's gonna happen sometime. Maybe this time, maybe this time I'll
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Now, I'm probably in trouble because I'm approaching Roy's house and I'm late, and I think he might be a bit of a stickler for timing. which when you're nearly 100, you've probably got every right to be.
He's got a sign on the door that says, "Ring bell, please wait, slow mover."
Ah,
Is this Peter?
Roy,
Do come in.
how are you?
Oh, on the table there is something for you.
Really? What's that then, Roy?
It's called the eye test. And I wrote that many years ago. It's a poem,
Right?
the eye test, but that's a copy.
Yeah.
And it's in all sorts of places. And I know that it's reached America.
Has it? You said you had something for me, but that's all wrong because it's your birthday coming up. So I've got a present for you.
Oh,
This is an early 100th birthday present. So
What
if you put your hands out, I bet you know what that is.
oh.
What do you...
And I've got a feeling you couldn't have chosen anything better. I should explain. The only sight I've now got, left eye completely dead, right eye down to about 2%.
Do you
It's that frog. It's my favourite.
well, no, I think you told us you like whiskey, but my favourite is what you call the frog as well. So I took a chance. Very happy birthday when it comes along.
Yeah, thank you very much. How I found out my sight was going, I was driving down the motorway and found that I was drifting to one side. I had been to the optician the previous week, and I went back and I said, I think I've something with the glasses, which I then wore. He looked at me, he said, I want you to go to hospital right away. And I was certified blind right away.
What was the condition, Roy?
Wet macular.
Yes, Roy Simons has age-related wet macular degeneration, which affects around 70,000 people in the UK. We'll hear more from Roy on how he structures his life in order to manage cooking for himself and living by himself as he approaches his 100th birthday on Friday. But now to our other roving reporter this week. Lucy Edwards went to the Blind Veterans UK Centre at Ovingdean near Brighton, where a trial of self-driving vehicles, or pods as these are being called, is taking place over the next 6 months. Like Roy Simons, 89-year-old Annie seems up for the challenge.
Annie, how do you feel about going in the pod today?
I'm looking forward to it with great trepidation. I was so sad that was other than seeing to read and sew and knit and that, driving my car was the biggest blow. I couldn't drive, I couldn't jump in it and go where I wanted and come back when I wanted. And I'm looking forward to this. I know it's too late for me, but I'm looking forward to the trial.
My name's Dave Woodett. I'm an ex-veteran. I was with the Royal Engineers, and also I've got a guide dog, Jasper.
Do you feel as if you lost your independence when you couldn't drive?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you lose that. It's a big kick to yourself, knowing that I've always been independent. You've always had transport. You always drive around. I've had motorbikes, I've had cars, I've driven lorries, and all sorts. So yes, it affects you big style. It really does, because you do lose your independence.
In terms of mobility, how do you think these pods would improve your life?
It's a scary emotion, isn't it? It's a scary thing to think about, knowing you're not in control. I think because I can get about quite freely. I know I can get on buses, I know I can get on trains, but how these pods are, whether they're remote controlled or whether there's no driver there, I don't know until I get in it how I'm going to feel. What's safety like? Can it go wrong? Are we going to cause an accident through it? Is it that safe that it will work? I'm sure that loads more tests on it will make it work.
The centre in Brighton is a hub of activity that specialises in rehabilitating blind ex-servicemen and women. It's a huge building with 85 bedrooms with an on-site swimming pool and gym. Starting at the main entrance, the pod travels along the driveway, having to negotiate oncoming vehicles and traffic. A trip around the grounds takes 15 minutes.
I am Renata Gomez and I'm Head of Research and Innovation at Blind Veterans UK. The centre is very interesting to develop this technology because it's a very dynamic and busy area. So where we have normal cars, we've got deliveries, we've got ambulances coming in and out, but we also have a very special population here. We have the blind veterans.
Origo, the company making these pods, have been developing them for 5 years. People may be aware that similar ones are being used in Milton Keynes to ferry shoppers to and from the city centre. And although this trial is the first with visually impaired people, they are still not allowed to drive in the pod by themselves.
I'm Richard Fairchild and I'm Operations Director for Origo. So currently we have a safety driver inside the pod, and that's really about ensuring that the pod is safe for you as a passenger and also for the rest of the people, in the environment that the pod's operating in. However, this was really a carryover from government policy about how to test autonomous vehicles. But there was recently a revision of this policy about testing autonomous vehicles in public spaces. And the requirement to have a safety driver in the vehicle is no longer present. And so what we're working on is moving that safety driver into a remote position. So the idea is that the one safety driver can then look after several vehicles remotely. And of course what that does is it changes the economics, which means that you can run more vehicles. And so at that point in time, it will very much be, you can go to the pod, get in the pod, and it will take you to where you want to go. But to assist you in enabling the pod to tell it where to go is really quite a challenge. So, for example, we're doing a lot of work with natural language processing. So you get in, there's nobody else in there, you ask it, tell it where you want to go, it takes you there, you get out, and then eventually you'll forget that you're in an autonomous pod. It'll just be, I just need to go get some lunch. I guess the main difference about our pods is that we've never targeted it as an on-road vehicle. So currently we're limiting the top speed to about 15 miles an hour, so we're not on public roads. It's trials like this at Blind Veterans that mean that people get to use a pod on a daily basis, and they start to see, actually, do you know what, this isn't scary technology, this is just another form of transport, just like a bus. And I suspect that as we go forward in time, you'll see that our vehicles will become more prevalent before you get on highway vehicles. So really, I think that this sector, this first and last mile off-highway sector, will come first.
There'll be many people listening to this relieved to hear they'll be off the roads for quite some time yet. But how are Roy Simons and Peter Wight getting on?
Roy, the reason that we've come to see you is partly to wish you happy birthday, and also, what we're told is that you actually live still very independently. You do a lot of things for yourself.
2000, I regretfully had to put my wife into a home because of Alzheimer's, and I had to learn and teach myself to cook. So I've taught myself how to cook, and I've been cooking ever since. I make up some of my own menus. I eat a lot of fish, but I do go out twice a week. Once on a Wednesday, I go shopping into extremely good Waitrose nearby. I just ring them up before I go, and I say, it's Roy. OK, Roy, we'll have somebody to take you round, which is very nice. And then I go to one of 3 or 4 restaurants where they know me very well, and I have my own table in each restaurant. A tot of whiskey appears and a drop of wine, and they read out the menu for me.
Right.
I'm well known there.
So you're probably quite a well-known figure generally around here, are you?
Yes, I suppose locally here I'm known as Roy, up and down the road. I can't get out and walk down the road at all now. I have to have somebody take my arm when I go, and I have a stick. I just have a walking stick.
But you obviously value your independence.
I do very much indeed. I'm very independent. On Sundays I do a roast, which can be anything from a bit of roast lamb, pork, beef, or even duck. That, at the moment, has taken me a very long time. And I've been trying to find a volunteer to help me on a Sunday.
I'll tell you what I'd like to do, Roy. It'd be nice to just show us how you've got your kitchen organised. Yeah? Could we do that?
The kitchen's round on the left.
No,
We'll start here. Peter?
Yes. And over here?
Now, don't press anything.
I won't.
But just feel your way round here.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is your microwave.
I'm going to give it 30 seconds. I look inside. Yes, I can just see a light inside. What I cook in the microwave. Yeah. Right. Start off on Monday morning. I have tomatoes and bacon. Cut the tomatoes up and the bacon. Tuesday, oh yes, I have a poached egg on Tuesday in the microwave. Wednesdays I'm out, as I've already told you. Yeah. Thursdays I go to Rotary. We come back to Friday tomatoes again. And then Saturday is a scrambled egg on toast. Here, that's my fridge. And in there I've got a tray down the bottom, plenty of fresh greens in there.
You've got chocolate in your fridge, right?
Yes, that's for the kids that come. I've got eight great-grandchildren.
Do you do desserts as well for people? Do you puddings?
Oh, yes. Very important puddings.
But can I just ask you, there's a lot of work in a roast dinner, Roy.
I've worked out on Sunday. I started my lunch about 10:30, and I didn't finish till nearly 3 o'clock. By the time I get it all going and that, yes.
Is this just cooking for you, or do you have people round?
No, I never. Never have anybody in to cook for. No.
But it's a lot. So you go to a lot of trouble, don't you, to do that properly on a Sunday?
Yes.
But it sounds to me as if you still want to go on doing these things for yourself.
I do. I'm determined.
I could do with being as organised as Roy myself. Meanwhile, Lucy Edwards is about to go for her first spin in a self-driving pod.
I'm here just outside the pod at Blind Veterans UK Centre in Ovingdean, Brighton, and the coast is really windy today, and we're about to go and jump in some self-driving pods. The pod that will be transporting the blind veterans around their centre has been called Arthur, named after the founder of Blind Veterans UK, Sir Arthur Pearson. The pod is 2 metres tall and seats 4 people. The sound that you can hear is the sound that the pod makes at its top speed of 15 miles per hour. This is to alert pedestrians that it's nearby. Miles Garner, Sales and Marketing Director for Origo, showed me how to climb aboard. Miles, could you talk us through the visuals of how to open the pod and what it looks like?
It's a really, really easy operation. There's a button on the front which we just have to press, and that opens up the door. And then after the door is open, we can then access inside the pod.
So as I'm getting in, it's quite a big space. How do you first input the location so the pod knows where you want to go?
We are working on an app that will allow you to kind of actually book a ride. We are like a way off from commercially sort of offering that to anyone to operate. As actually part of the trial, we are just limiting the routes to around about up to 4 routes around the campus.
And how is it accessible inside for VI passengers?
Inside the pod at the moment, there's light colours on all the rails. On all the rails are yellow, all the edge, also like at the seats are as yellow as well. There's lighting inside in the roof and lighting also on the corners as well.
Why is there not more audible signals for them to plug in their destination inside the pod?
The whole reason why we're actually doing this actually trial, and it hasn't really actually started, is to actually get that type of feedback. So we've been working over the past couple of months with actually guide dogs. That's the reason why there's lots of light inside, lots of yellow in areas. So that was the information actually fed into us.
I felt that the pod was quite comfortable and there was definitely enough room for my guide dog to sit at my feet. However, I do feel there needs to be audible announcements inside the vehicle, and that is the biggest drawback for me. But I really wanted to know what the residents thought.
My name's Mark Threadgold, I'm 51 and I'm totally blind. I have severed optic nerves. I did 17 years in the army in the Royal Signals. I was an electronics engineer, radio tech.
Did you used to drive when you had your vision?
Driving was a big thing for me. It's the thing I missed the most. I used to have a little sports car that I raced. I was a HGV driver and a motorcyclist as well, so driving I've missed enormously.
And have you been in the pod today?
I was the first one in the pod this morning, they tell me, so that's quite a privilege, isn't it?
Lovely. And how did you find it?
It was interesting, very quiet being electric, and a bit disconcerting because the two seats are facing each other. So, you haven't got a front and back, so to speak. Getting in that was fantastic because as an electronics engineer by trade, and I was a bit of a classic car fan as well, there you go, both things are in that, aren't they? I think it'd be great for independence. The day one of us could, totally blind, jump in a car and get dropped off at the place you actually want to be at, instead of having to learn the route from a bus stop. Yeah, fantastic.
Do you have any things that you think that they can improve on in the pod?
Speaking to the guys about the design, they're trying to look at inclusive design right from the start. And the way they described it was, if you can make it work for, the most difficult person, for want of a better word, then it'll work for everybody else. So for me, I'm looking at things like audio tags to tell you where you are, what you're passing, how long it's going to be till you get there. The feedback when you're totally blind is hugely important.
Were you satisfied today that you got that?
Yeah, we just went down the hill to the bottom. It's not a talking pod just yet. I'm sure it's going to be at some point. Yeah, good experience.
I think the pods have a long way to go as they're still only at their trial period at the moment. But I think as a blind woman, eventually in the future, I will jump in one of these and hopefully get to my destination completely independently.
While some of us might be looking forward to the day we can hit the open road, Roy Simons has a party to prepare for, and it's put him in reflective mood.
I'm afraid I counted up 70, 80, 90 people that are no longer with me. There's only one person that's been in my life. She's aged 91 and she's the widow of one of my good friends.
You have set them rather a tough target, haven't you, by living to 99 and almost 100?
Yes.
Yeah.
They were going to have a big party, family party only.
I think we can't go, Roy, without toasting your birthday. That's why I brought you that present from In Touch. So shall we? Well, are you going to do the honours? Oh, it's one of the best sounds in the world.
We'll chink the glass in.
Well, Roy, many, many, many happy returns.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for coming. I'm amazed. As people say, they're amazed with me and that, and I'm amazed with myself sometimes. But there you are.
Well,
cheers.
It's delightful to have met you and to see how well organised you are. Cheers, Roy. Oh, that goes down well, doesn't it?
I've got to sip that. Yeah.
Scaffolding news for Friday the 22nd of March 2019. Please find below a list of known footway obstructions for works including scaffolding, hoarding, also details of skips, cranes and cherry pickers. We are unable to include end dates as many are extended on a week-by-week basis. The Cows area. Current scaffolds. 93 High Street Cows, scaffold up within hoarding. The White Hart Inn, Dover Road East Cows, and the public conveniences, the Parade Cows. Current hoardings. 93 High Street Cows, public conveniences, the Parade Cows.
Newport area. Current scaffolds. The Wheatsheaf Hotel, St Thomas Square, Newport, also in Parle Street. 15 Cypress Road, Newport. HMV, Castlehold Lane, Newport. 10 High Street, Newport. 30 High Street, Newport. Pending scaffolds, 61 High Street, Newport, and in Castlehold Lane. Current skips, Fairmount Drive, Newport, in association with Stapler's Works. 49 Clarence Road, Newport. Current cherry pickers, Everland, Long Lane, Newport. Little Israel, Blacklands Lane, Newport, from the 25th of March.
The Ride area. Current scaffolds. Gardener's Cottage, Upper Green Road, St Helens. 91 to 92 High Street Ride. Coburg's Nightclub, Union Street Ride. Ellesmere Court, 76 George Street Ride. And Liz Earle, Union Street Ride. Pending scaffolds. Marvin's Cross Street Ride. Current skips. Carita, Stane Road, Seaview. 4 Sherborne Avenue Ride. 2 Spithead Close, Seaview. And spaces behind 90 St Edmund's Walk, Wootton. Building materials and hoarding. Car park, Brooks Road, Bembridge. Spaces behind 90 St Edmund's Walk, Wootton. And current crane, road connecting Nettleston Hill and Seaview Lane, Seaview.
Sandown and Shanklin area. Current scaffolds, Wilmar, Dorkin and Vermipa Cottages, Church Street, Newchurch. Trouville Hotel, 10 to 16 Esplanade, Sandown. The Ocean Hotel Townhouses, High Street, Sandown. 5 Palmerston Road, Shanklin. 101 High Street, Shanklin. Bar 64, 64 High Street, Shanklin. Pending scaffolds, Pie Shop, Melville Street, Sandown. Current skips, 9 Pier Road, Sandown, opposite Pier. Outside Sandown Pier, Esplanade, Sandown. Current hoardings, Premier Inn, 1 to 9 Esplanade, Sandown. Junction of St Boniface Road and Arthur's Hill, Shanklin. Current cherry picker, 31B Regent Street, Shanklin.
Ventnor area. Current scaffolds, corner of Trinity Road and Madeira Road, Ventnor. 1 Boniface Road and into Trinity Road, Ventnor. Corner of Church Hollow, Godshill. Flat 1, 1 Marlborough Road, Ventnor. West Wight area. Current scaffolds, Old School, Fine Lane, Shorewell. Vectis House, Ward Road, Totland. St James's Church, St James Street, Yarmouth. Current hoarding, skip and building materials, end of Withyfields cul-de-sac, Shalfleet. Vehicle crossings under construction, 25 Ratcliffe Avenue Ride, 63 Edinburgh Road, Freshwater, opposite 34 Pitt Street Ride, Ventnor Brewery, 119 High Street, Ventnor, 115 Station Road, Wootton, 37 Oakland Gardens, Shanklin, and 20 Greenham Drive, Seaview.